Welcome back to the show. I'm Mikhail. Today, I'm talking to Chloe of Cheapskate, which is a loyalty program that uses blockchain technology to allow brands to acquire and retain customers. We talk about the current challenges of the retail and customer loyalty space, how blockchain technology will transform the entire retail industry in the next 5 to 10 years, and also some advice to other entrepreneurs looking to utilize blockchain technology into their retail business. Please support the members by liking and subscribing to the channel and leave a comment for our guests. Enjoy. How have you been?
Yes, good. Thanks, Miguel. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
No, absolutely no. Happy to be here for sure.
Wonderful. Well, for those that don't know, why don't you give us a little introduction about yourself and what is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. I'm Chloe. I'm one of the founding members of Cheapskate. I specifically head up the kind of commercial side of the business, so looking at working with our retailers and really kind of maximizing our revenue streams. Previously, I've come from a background in the banking sector initially, and then I really kind of first cut my teeth in retail and strategy when I worked in management consulting. And that was really where I kind of first faced some of the challenges that we're seeing in the retail tech landscape. And when I met my co-founders and got involved with Cheapskate. So I guess that's a little bit about me. In terms of the actual product, so we are building the ultimate exchange for brand loyalty points. So our mission is essentially to help brands move their loyalty programs onto the blockchain. Um, Cheapskate, as I think the name kind of suggests, was really initially born out of just a passion for building products that would help consumers be more savvy and to really kind of celebrate thrifty behavior. We often used to say, it's our mission to try and help it be cool to be a cheapskate. And then where the kind of customer loyalty angle really came in was myself and the team worked in e-commerce directly, and we really kind of lived and breathed some of the problems that exist within loyalty programs. So I think our angle came more from industry initially rather than straight in from Web3. And what we felt was that conventional tech and Web2 tech was really holding retailers back when it came to retention and customer loyalty. And they weren't really getting what they wanted out of their loyalty schemes. They weren't reaching their full potential. And what we felt that there were so many things about blockchain tech and Web3 in general that really lend themselves to customer loyalty mechanisms. And actually, I think it is probably one of the strongest use cases to my mind that exists within blockchain tech. What is Web3 all about? It's about using tech to foster community, to put in place reward mechanisms for contribution. It's creating this trustless ledger to track currency and transactions. All of those things make it perfect for customer loyalty schemes. So that's really kind of where the idea was born from.
Great. And I like what you said that you came from the loyalty or the retail side, essentially, not necessarily from the Web3 side. The reason why I think that that is important to note is because I think there's a lot of people in Web3 that are doing things just for the sake of it being around blockchain technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to get your perspective because you're coming in from the traditional world and specifically around loyalty and retail, and you understand the behavior. So what are the current challenges of the retail and customer loyalty space at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting point. With customer loyalty specifically, it is quite a complicated landscape. You think this is retail's obviously a huge industry, but I'd kind of whittle it down to what's happening with the customers and then what's happening with brands separately. So in terms of customers, the biggest problem is essentially people aren't spending loyalty points and they aren't engaging with loyalty programs. The latest estimate we have is there are currently 6 billion unspent loyalty points in the UK, and I'm sure much more in the US, and sort of in the wider global market. But I think some of the problems that happen in the space are really resonate with most people. I think a lot of us, we shop probably quite passively to try and kind of accrue loyalty points, but you've got 100 different apps, 100 different physical cards. It's so inconvenient that the solutions that exist, they're very siloed into each retailer. So I think there's a lot of problem solving that needs to happen in this space around just the convenience angle and helping people find a way to remember where their points are and to store them in a certain place. There's also kind of the lens of, with a lot of reward options, there's often it's often frustratingly irrelevant to a lot of people. So, you get sent different offers and things, but they're not typically something that you would engage with. So personalization is a big kind of challenge that we have in this space. There's also the more kind of the paucity aspect of this, that often it just takes so long to build up points that are of any kind of value that people just lose interest. I won't mention it, but the last time I looked at one of my loyalty cards in particular, I think I had like 5p worth of credit on it, and you just think, what is that doing for me? No one's gonna take the action to use it. And all of this, I think, is then wrapped up in the kind of bigger macroeconomic picture that we are in a cost of living crisis right now, unfortunately, as we all know. And frankly, most people can't afford to be loyal to a brand, even if they love them. Like for example, I would love, I love Lululemon, and I would love to be rocking around in Lululemon leggings all the time. But frankly, because of cost pressures, people are just having to make purchasing decisions purely on price, even if they kind of love the brand itself. So in a roundabout way, that's what's going on the customer side. And then in terms of the brand side, they're really seeing an impact of this lack of engagement. And what that's driving is a lot lower ROI than brands would expect from loyalty programs. So, brands do see the value in loyalty, and you can see that by all of the biggest brands have some kind of loyalty offering, but because of this lack of engagement, they're not getting the return that they'd want to see. And also the running costs are absolutely astronomical for some of these brands. So, it's not something that's actually particularly widely known. But for every loyalty point that a brand has in circulation, they essentially need to set aside a cash reserve that accounts for that. So that just in case, for example, everybody woke up one morning and decided, I want to spend my Nike points, the brands have to be able to satisfy those transactions. So what we're seeing is brands are putting millions aside in cash reserves for these loyalty programs. And because customers aren't engaging with it, there's these huge piles of cash that are just not being touched. So for the big brands, there's a huge kind of cost element to it. But then also because of that, what it means is that it's something that small, medium businesses just can't really get involved in. So at an industry level, the loyalty management market is a very bizarre, kind of skewed market right now. You think, you have your big brands, your Nectars, your Clubcard, your Starbucks, with their kind of really sophisticated loyalty programs. And then you have like coffee stamps, right? And like really kind of rudimentary physical solutions that small brands are having to resort to. So the market has become a bit of a skewed place, and there's a huge kind of chasm in that sort of mid-market point where loyalty needs aren't really being met. So yeah, essentially that is the sort of problems that exist, and we've built a solution that really tries to target those.
Great. You mentioned Starbucks. Do you have any thoughts, by the way, about them partnering up with Polygon and that loyalty program that they're trying to build out?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's somebody that we've massively got an eye on, obviously, because they are a direct competitor to what we're doing. I think it speaks volumes that one of the founders of it's called Forum 3, which is the guys that are building the loyalty program for Starbucks. It's the ex CDO of Starbucks that founded Forum 3. So I think the fact that you're seeing somebody of C-suite level Starbucks moving into this space really just shows how big the movement and the disruption opportunity there is coming in this market. I think I'm grateful for them in a way because I think it's really paved the way and shown what can be done. But I think they're starting quite small in a way. I think the NFT offering definitely has its place and it's seeing some great engagement. But obviously, I'm going to say this, I'm very biased, but I think what we're bringing in is something that's much more intuitive and useful for your kind of everyday consumer that maybe isn't frankly very interested in NFTs or isn't bought into it.
So, Chloe, my question is, how does blockchain technology benefit retailers and consumers in the customer loyalty space, specifically around your application?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, what we're building at Cheapskate is what we see as we're building the future of customer loyalty. We're creating a blockchain powered loyalty program that essentially has complete interchangeability between loyalty programs. So, we can create collaboration between brands, they can work together in a loyalty exchange, and essentially create some really innovative new ways of customer incentive. So, to kind of bring that to life a little bit more. So for a customer, what they'll be able to do on our platform is swap their loyalty points that exist within one brand into another. They could also exchange those loyalty points into another cryptocurrency or fiat as well. So it really kind of hits that problem of the low utility of points. So one example could be if I'm a gamer, for example, and I'm playing FIFA. I've collected loads of FIFA points. Within the Cheapskate world, I could swap those FIFA points for money off my next McDonald's, for example. So it's really looking at complementary brand collaborations to drive better utility for customer loyalty points. And the other element of this is also the reward lens. So what we can do is go far beyond reward that's just transaction based. So you think right now you get rewarded for spending more. And that's pretty much where it ends in this space right now. But loyal behaviors are so much more than what someone spends. It's if you're loyal to a brand like I don't know, who do you like, Mikhail? Who's your favorite brand at the moment?
Oh, geez. You put me on the spot here. Let's go with the one that you mentioned, Lululemon. I have a
Lululemon.
few of their
Sure, yeah. So if you're looking out for your new Lululemon leggings, you're probably subscribed to the emails, you're probably following them on social media, you're probably visiting physical stores to check out sales, maybe you're talking to your friends about them. All of those things are you acting like a loyal customer, but none of it is rewarded right now. And that's really where we're going to change things. So we are able to give customers loyalty points for doing all those things. So we can, see what you're liking and sharing on social media. We can, you can prove to us that you've visited a physical store. All of those things, we can make sure that they're rewarded, but which is obviously great for the customers. But then on the brand side, what that's driving is far, far richer data. And it comes back to that point again of it gives them the ability to personalize their reward offerings. Also by having the brand collaborations, so the customers being able to swap their points from one brand to another, is essentially what brands are accessing is customer acquisition through loyalty programs, whereas typically loyalty programs are all about retention. We can make it about acquisition as well. So using the FIFA and the McDonald's example, what's happened to McDonald's through that exchange is they've actually then got a customer that previously belonged to FIFA and not necessarily them. So you're accessing other brands, target audiences, but they're not competitors. They're complementary. So there's a big crossover between their audiences. But that's so yeah, essentially it's a mechanism for acquisition and retention as well.
and sounds like based on what you're saying that before with loyalty programs that wasn't possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what the blockchain element unlocks, is because of the traceability of points, and the fact that we have this, immutable ledger. We have the ability to validate those things that are happening.
Got it. Now, I know that and I don't know so much about the traditional world, but in the Web3 space, there's a lot of concerns about data, about uh, privacy as well. So, how do you think blockchain technology will change the way we think about data privacy and security in retail specifically?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one, and it's something that, with our retailers that we work with, it's something that is often the first thing they ask, because it's almost, I think, Web3 has a really interesting perception when it comes to data. I think a lot of people are very much sold on the idea that, this is the way to really change the way that we interact with data, and this is our ticket to making it more secure and safe. And then there's the other side of the coin where people are almost far more afraid of the tech. So I think it often depends kind of who you're speaking to. But I think in answer to your question, for the broader piece around Web3, I think customers are going to get far more control over their data. They're going to be rewarded for sharing more. So that's one of the things we're doing with our platform, is we want customers to be empowered by their data. We want them to be able to decide how much I'm going to give the retailers, and then be then rewarded for potentially sharing more. I think there's that age old saying, isn't there, that if something's free, then you're the product. And I think a lot of the times with Web2 companies, obviously, they're collecting your data, they're selling it on, they're making a shit ton from it as well, pardon my French. But I think with blockchain tech, what we're doing is we're giving the power back to users, aren't we? We're giving them more control over their data, and essentially allowing them to monetize it more. I think particularly from a retail perspective, what that's going to drive is far greater personalization, hopefully. And I think everything that we're doing in our platform is really to support that kind of retention piece. Obviously, with it having the loyalty angle, so it's to retain a customer, you need to really understand them, right? And you need to learn as much as you can about them to keep them engaged. So I think what Web3 and blockchain tech really unlocks is the ability to collect that data whilst doing it with the permissions of the customers.
So, fast forward 5, 10 years, what is the loyalty program? What does it look like? Can we add a third element to this, or
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. Obviously, without giving away loads of stuff that's on our roadmap, I think one thing I'm really interested to see will be how blockchain works with other elements of Web3. So I think what we're really focusing on right now is, the what we can unlock with the blockchain tech, and right now that is creating so many benefits. But I think obviously, as we know, AI is having a massive moment right now. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what that brings. So take the social media example. Right now I said, you can track if someone's liking and sharing things using AI. We could do things like sentiment analysis, for example, to work out like who's speaking positively about a brand, and then maybe use that for marketing and retargeting. I think there's so much potential, I think, with that. So I think what we're really going to see is, whereas right now loyalty schemes, you've got, we mentioned Starbucks focusing on NFTs, you've got us looking at blockchain specifically, and working with brands. I think it'll be great to see the synergy between the other areas, machine learning, DeFi, dApps, all working together, which hopefully we'll see as time goes on within loyalty as well.
yeah, and these are very exciting topics to cover, but obviously what we need is adoption in order for that to happen. And in order for adoption to happen, we need a very good user experience. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, Chloe, for Cheapskate, how are you guys keeping that in mind, like as you're building out your application?
Yeah, it's a big point, and I think it's probably something that every founder in Web3 is grappling with right now to some extent. I do think there's a lot of really simple things we can do. I think particularly investment in UX, obviously, making sure that your sign up journey is as simple as possible. I think this is really where the next big wave is going to come from, right? There's one thing targeting wallet users that already exist, but in retail specifically, you know, the vast majority of people are not trading crypto. They're not wallet holders. They're not engaged in Web3. So it's how do we make that journey for a non-wallet holder really seamless? So we're doing all the kind of usual stuff that you might. We're trying to make sure the UX is really clean. We're having really sort of strict funnel management as well, looking at where we're seeing dropout. And I think it'll be really exciting to see, broader kind of infrastructure changes that will help us with that. All the latest developments in terms of wallets as a service, I think are going to be great for almost blockchain adjacent projects like us, where we are targeting like non-wallet holders for a large part of our adoption. But yeah, I think the main thing you can do as a brand is just really try and minimize the learning curve that's associated with getting involved with your product. But yeah, I think a lot of the time it's get back to basics, right? This is simple. I think we just need to make sure your UX is really hot, make sure your funnel management is kind of as tight as it could be. And one principle we always have is that the customer shouldn't feel or know that they're in Web3. This should feel as much as possible just like another app to them. So yeah, we try and use that and let that sort of drive our product decisions.
What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs that are, passionate about the retail space, and they are also very interested about blockchain technology and want to be able to utilize blockchain technology and incorporate that into their retail business?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think we're past the point where blockchain is a buzzword now. I think what businesses are moving to and what retailers are wanting in our specific use case is really practical solutions to everyday challenges. I think there's a great example with how NFTs have evolved and how that storyline's kind of unraveled. They obviously had a huge moment, and I think where they've actually seen progression and where there's been legacy from NFTs is where there's really true practical use cases. So what's happening in art, music, ticketing is a great example of really kind of sustainable change within that space. And I think blockchain specifically has some fantastic applications, but it doesn't work in every instance. And I think you've got to find where there's the greatest pain points, and where there's the most traction in that area. I think, and I obviously mentioned this a little bit before, but I think my advice to entrepreneurs would be really to get creative with how blockchain can harness the power of some of the other pillars of Web3 tech as well. The dApps, the DeFi, and AI and machine learning as well. I think where there's synergy between these areas is where the next kind of big wave of growth is going to come from. Like, for example, obviously AI is having a huge moment right now, to say the least. And I think what that's doing is it's really creating a blueprint for what's possible in terms of mass adoption within Web3. But obviously, as we know, with this huge growth comes risk. A lot of people are very nervous about the changes that AI is bringing, and there's danger associated with it. And take this scenario that we're in right now, for example. Somebody watching this video could use AI. I won't say how to do it, obviously, but use AI to take both of our likenesses, take our voice, and create an alternative piece of footage that says something completely different to what we're saying now. And I think, obviously this is hugely concerning when you look at the impact that this might have on things like the political landscape. So I think what we need is, a combination of, these advancements in AI with validation mechanisms, security and tracking that blockchain provides. So I think that's just one example of how you're taking two really key elements of Web3 and really bringing them together to make sure that they're sustainable. So I think as an entrepreneur in the retail space specifically, I'd be looking at, where can we create synergy between these areas of Web3 and kind of use their powers in tandem, if you like.
Interesting. So your advice is for people to try to utilize blockchain technology with AI.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously blockchain has a lot to offer on its own, but I think what we're going to see, particularly I think when you're thinking about mass adoption, I think a lot of people now are very well versed in AI, and actually blockchain has probably had a lot harder time in that respect. So I think it is one way of looking at that acquisition piece and that growth piece, is how they can kind of work together, and you can use the moment that AI is having to really kind of drive the blockchain side of the business too.
Yeah, AI is definitely has been making a lot of progress. I mean, I heard a song by Eminem,
Oh
but it's
yeah,
not really. And then there's one with Drake and The Weeknd.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
wow, this stuff is very, very scary for sure. It's crazy how far we've come along in the AI space,
In
and
months as
hopefully,
well. Oh, my light's just gone off. Hang on.
no worries. Well, Chloe, this was a real pleasure. Thanks so much for joining the conversation. If anybody wants to get in touch, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, Mikhail. I think best way probably just, I can leave my LinkedIn, drop me a DM, whether you're a brand that's looking to explore your loyalty offering, or, you're just somebody that wants to know more. I can drop our link for brands, and then anything else, feel free to just drop me a DM.
Wonderful. Any parting thoughts for the listeners?
Oh, parting thoughts. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think my parting thought would just be that blockchain isn't going anywhere. It's I think there's so many fantastic use cases for it right now. It's helping businesses, it's helping customers. Um, it is disrupting a lot of spaces, and I think as with any kind of big wave in tech, there's obviously going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And I think the winners are going to be the people that really kind of take the perceived leap into it, and really harness the areas where it works the best, and get onto things early. So as I said, if you do want to learn more about what we're doing and how we're helping brands, and our kind of big plans for growth, then yeah, feel free to reach out to me.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for your time, Chloe. This was a really interesting experience. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for your perspective on the entire retail space and loyalty program in particular with Cheapskate.
Andy, thank you so much, Mikhail. It's great to chat today.